Hey everyone, and welcome to Coniston Heights. This is the park series that we've been working on for the past 3 episodes, and it now finally has a name. The name itself doesn't really mean anything. It's not actually associated with either of the real Conistons that exist in England. It's basically just a really nice name that I kind of thought up with the help of Misty's to basically give this park a bit of an identity, and I wanted to go for something a bit more traditionally British style, where it's not necessarily like a generic name and then park or land. I know Thorpe Park and all that exists, but I wanted to go for more of the like Alton Towers, Drayton Manor vibe for it, as I thought that would work nicely with the direction I want to go for this park. And I think the name itself, it's pretty like tame. It's not very like, it's a bit more like F-telling sort of vibe. It's a bit more leaves a bit more up to the imagination, I guess. I don't know why I'm justifying it so much for the name of the park, but yes, we finally have a name. I'm going to go back and change the names of all the other episodes, and going forward, that is what it's going to be known as. I've also been working on a logo for the park in Illustrator. However, due to not being able to use billboards or actually put in custom typefaces, I have to use the in-game type as the main logo at the moment. However, just do know that in the thumbnails you'll see the actual logo, which is using a lovely sort of Times New Roman style typeface, which I think fits this park really nicely. It's a bit F-telling, no, not a bit F-telling, it's a bit Phantasialand inspired with the logo mark. And I just think it's also a bit inspired by Toverland, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, but it's a very simple typeface with a nice little star as the eye mark, and it looks really nice. And you have this match with the really modern typeface underneath it that says Heights. And I'm just hoping that we can get billboards in the game so that we can actually use the typeface. So going forward, the park is going to be known as Coniston Heights, and this is the series, and we're going to be working on moving forward with the branding and hopefully getting some billboards. When they hopefully add billboards to Planet Coaster 2, hopefully I'll be able to start putting posters and things in, make everything feel really nice and put together with the name and the brand of the park. So anyway, this episode I focus on getting the entrance finished, which is, I can happily say, is now fully finished. I guess with the exception of like a very few minor details that I can't put in at the moment. I'm going to come back and do a lot of the backstage areas after we've finished most of the park itself, or at least the areas closest to the car parks, as I really want to get this park laid out logically, so that I wouldn't just start building an admin car park that ends up being miles away from where it actually needs to be. I'd rather build the whole park and then place in where I need to put most of the backstage areas for like staff and deliveries and stuff, as that would make more sense, like when designing a park. And also on that, ticket booths. I realised that I didn't have any before, and I wanted to put them in, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was thinking maybe, I could just fire them all through guest services, aka that little building on the right with the sort of white, I see the white walls, that's quite generic in this park, the sort of like pitched roof thing, I don't know. I decided no, instead I'd do it the Alton Towers way, which is have these little tiny kiosks right at the entrance of the park with their own little dedicated queue lines to funnel guests through. I thought I'd have 3 of them so that we can have a plenty of space for people to queue up and buy their tickets. I know people don't really buy tickets at a park anymore, because not only do theme parks charge extortionate rates for gate prices, but also everybody just books online now because it's just easier and cheaper. But this park is, I guess, technically would have been set around the 1990s, so, well, not the 90s, that's sort of the 80s as well, so that sort of era would have ticket booths, wouldn't it? Because that's how, obviously you'd buy tickets in the time before the internet was widely adopted. But I wanted to put them in anyway, and I think it works really nicely. It's like it breaks up the sightline and breaks up the pathway of the entrance itself. And I'm really happy with it, to be honest. And it also means I can add little details and things as well. So here you can see the sort of logo I've been working with currently. The actual logo is similar to this, however the main Coniston logo is a different font, which looks a hell of a lot nicer. And you can see I was experimenting with colours here. I wasn't massively like sure what to do when it came to the colours, so I just went for white, as I thought that it would work nicely and be sort of a neutral thing. It's also quite visible. I felt other colours that weren't like red or anything like that, really garish colours, didn't look great, so I ended up just going with a white, as I thought it would be the most neutral but also like looks nice. Same with these little welcome and safe travels signs that I've got on the ticket booths here. Just make everything feel a bit more welcoming and a bit more involving for the guest experience and whatever. Tried some flags as well. It just didn't work, so I ended up ditching it, and instead was like, you know what, I'm going to make some signs. So all this stuff is the information about the prices of stuff at the park. I did find that there was a really annoying issue with the text in game, and it works the same as it used to do in Planet Coaster 1, where the size of the type isn't determined by like a point or something, or like a scale. It's based on how much you write. And when I just want to write 3 letters, that ends up massive compared to all the other ones. And because I've got it scaled down to 10%, which is the smallest with the mod, I can't make it any smaller, which means that some of the type ends up being different size, and it's really weird. So I tried to sort of break it by making them all the same size, and then just grouping them and scaling them. And it did kind of work, but you end up with these weird little... some of the types bigger than the other, and then it ends up looking all sort of weird, and I don't know. It's not... It's alright, but I'm hoping that when we get billboards, I can go back and make this properly. It's like a piece of graphic design, and actually have a really nice looking result, rather than putting type in-game on some wood, even though it is themed. So, I don't know. Prices and things of all this stuff, I don't know. I just guessed, to be honest. I did go and tweak this because I thought it was a bit too cheap. That does not sound like I'm trying to rinse people out of money. It's because I was thinking logically about what a park would actually charge for a entry to a park in 2025, because obviously this park is set in current times. I don't know, 37 quid? Does that sound too expensive for gate price of a big theme park? Probably sounds too cheap, to be honest, but I didn't want to, you know, be too realistic and make everybody depressed with how expensive everything is, because it's very expensive these days. But yeah, I've really been enjoying actually just hopping into Planet Coaster 2 and working on this park in general. I've had a few little side projects that I've been working on. Obviously, we had the wing last week, and again, thank you very much for the feedback on that on that video. A lot of you were commenting that you want the train file. Unfortunately, because it uses the too much scaling mod, I can't release it because I don't know what it's going to look like when I, you know, try it without the mod. So for now, I'm going to hold off on it. Maybe I'll put it unlisted, but you absolutely need to have that mod, otherwise it just won't look good. All the pieces will rescale back to 40%, and then it just won't be good. As I have a lot of the little tropical trim pieces set to 10% to make the actual shape of the logo itself. Not logo, the thing. So I will try to maybe release it. The actual file, in terms of like the layout, I could probably release as a blueprint. Maybe just not with the custom supports, because again, they use the too much scaling mod, because I need to have things be smaller to actually do what I need to do. But alas, that, again, thank you very much for the feedback on that. I appreciate your kind words on making a wing coaster. Somebody also said, is this wing coaster going to be in your park? Possibly? Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I cherry-picked it a bit too much for that terrain. I don't know, maybe. I'm definitely going to use the trains, though, because, as I mentioned, I think in the last episode, I'm not sure how I'm going to release this park, because obviously this park uses too much scaling mod pretty much in everything it uses, so I'm probably going to have to release it unlisted and say, look, you need to have this mod, console people, it doesn't work for you, I'm very sorry. So, well, I might just have to go about that with the rest of this park as well. But yeah, I'm probably going to use those trains for the wing coaster, because I do want to put a wing coaster in this park. I've been thinking about how I actually want to put the coaster lineup of this, because, you know, I enjoy coasters. And actually, quickly off topic here, I'm actually going to put the barriers in, because the barriers do work now, apparently. So hopefully when guests come in, they won't walk into walls, because I do want this to be a functional park as well, because why not? I was thinking about the coaster lineup for this, and I've sort of played it as this park was built in the 1980s alongside the really big introduction of Towers and Thorpe. So during its development into the 90s, it's going to have jumped on a lot of the coaster bandwagons. Now, I have a couple of options. I can either go for the B&M route, which is during the 94 Coaster Wars, they were like, yeah, we'll have a B&M, and then they build like the world's first Flawless or something. Or we build a new Arrow, like Tennessee Tornado, but we put it in this park. Because, to be honest, it wouldn't necessarily then be in the... it wouldn't be during the 94 Coaster Wars, it would be in like 1999, where they would be like yeah, we want an arrow, and it's going to be a not hyper-themed, it's going to be like a nicely themed, modern computer-designed arrow like Tennessee Tornado, which would be really cool for a British park to say that we have one of those. So maybe. Leave your suggestions below of what coaster types you do want to see in this park. Just know that we're definitely having A, B, and M of some kind, possibly an invert. I know I said definitely an invert, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just not sure how I'm going to put that in the lineup unless I do like a new gen or something. Unless I do like Thorpe style, where I build like a 2003 one where it's sort of modern-ish, but I really like the old trains, so I don't know, maybe. We'll see what happens. Just building this little car parking building as well, because I thought I need to be able to fill these buildings with useful things for a theme park. So I thought, what's another useful part of a building, a useful part of a theme park? And that would be the parking building, because obviously, unlike Towers has a dedicated little parking area in its entrance. I wanted to build that as well, so I decided, let's build some, I guess, like ticket machines or whatever. I actually spent way too long on these because I got way into it. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna build some really realistic things. Like why am I putting a keypad in? There's no need. But I also put like a little contacts thing as well. Don't question me when I'm in a flow state when it comes to building stupid things in a park. These again use the scaling mod, but if that becomes widely available, I might put these on the workshop because these are nice. I'm really quite happy with how these turned out, and to be honest, it was quite a lot of fun building something like this because it means I can copy and paste it into my other parks that I might be building in the future, because I don't know how long this park's going to take to actually make, but we've been doing this for about a month, I think. Have we been doing this for like a month? And we've nearly finished the entrance. That's probably not a great time frame, but in fairness, I've not been working on this as regularly as I wanted to, just to try and save myself from burnout, and also because I've had work and stuff to deal with. But I'm going to try and work on this as regularly as possible, hence why it is the most regular series on the channel now. Things like the element tutorials, I've kind of stopped doing those at the moment because I don't know if I know there's a few of you that have mentioned that you would find it helpful, but I feel like for things like the corkscrews, not much has changed between that and Planet Coasters 1, so I might update them eventually. But for now, I think if you do want to find out how to make corkscrews, the Planet Coaster 1 tutorial is still fine. It still pretty much works one-to-one how it does in here. Just remember to smooth it a bit differently, like do the spam smooth thing. You'd have to do the backwards-forwards thing, because it just doesn't matter anymore. But I don't know, I might come back to those, I might redo them, but we'll see. Here I was making some new entrance gates as well, because I wanted to use the in-game ones. I put them on the left-hand side as sort of the accessible entrance, because they're massive for some reason, because obviously they fit the 4-meter scale. And then I was like, you know what, make some turnstiles, and then I hated them, so I just ditched it and went for gates instead. Sort of inspired by the Portaventura ones, because I liked the design of them, they're very modern. So I went with those. This entrance as well, with the little hanging, well, I haven't put them in yet, but I do end up adding some little hanging signs that say entrance. Again, that's really inspired by Portaventura, and I'm kind of now thinking that this park, in its sort of vibe, might be a bit like a British Portaventura, maybe not at the same level of theming, but in terms of the entrance is the area it's based in. Obviously, Portaventura's one is Mediterranean, which is where Spain is mostly set. I know there's some bits that border the Atlantic, but it's mostly where it is, so obviously it's going to take cues from architecture and themes. So it would make it feel like you're not walking into some random fantasy land the second you get in. You're walking into just another area of the country, and then everything starts getting hyper-themed. So I guess we could do the same sort of vibe here, where you walk into an English, traditional English park, and you think oh wow, this is cool, and then suddenly you've turned the corner and now you're in Asia, which I am going to put an Asian area in, because this is where the Wing Coaster ties in. Some of you might remember a shelved series that I put out ages ago that I never bothered finishing. And it was like a wing coaster that was in Japanese theming or something, and I just never bothered to actually finish it because I sort of bit off more I could chew with the project, and then ended up just basically shelving it because it was too ambitious for what I could do at the time. So I think I worked on a bunch of other stuff instead. It was a fun idea, but as I was told as well, I themed it way too heavily, and it was way too unrealistic in terms of theming. So got a little bit demotivated with it and was like, you know what? Let's shelve it and see what happens. Same with the Flawless. The Flawless was good, but again, I just kind of got a bit demotivated with it and never ended up finishing it. So a lot of these projects that I did start in PC1, I could bring back to 2, and I know for a fact there is one in the works currently, a major project that I'm starting as a side thing to this park, which I did tease a little while ago in PC1. I say a little while ago, I think it was 3 years ago. And it might involve a set of inverts that I did start, and we'll have to see what happens with that, because now that we have things like pools, I've made a new environment as well. I think it was, is it Cheese It in the Bro Nation Discord server? He made a water map, like a beach map, and it made me be like, yeah, I want one now. So I spent, I think it was like an hour and a half breaking the water level to try and get as high as possible, and now I've got basically the coastal environment that I had in PC1 in PC2 ready to use for projects going forward. So any like one-off coasters you might see now will probably be on that environment, because it just is the best. Because as nice as the new voxel terrain skirts are in this game, I still prefer having a completely flat ground. So obviously there's also a flat ground map as well, which we'll be able to use for other projects like major recreations, possibly, if we do decide to do one. However, on that level, if you just remember the Portaventura recreation, it made me realise that like I kind of wish we started it in PC2, because the Mediterranean biome is so perfect for Portaventura. Not only because it's actually a Mediterranean biome, but because it's actually got a sea in the distance that slopes down, like it does in Portaventura, which again makes me think like how many projects would be amazing if I did them in PC2, depending on this game's life cycle. I just really hope we get TMTK, because I feel like this game is going to suffer if we don't have TMTK, because it would be nice to know that with the Frontier Workshop, if we as creators put out pieces on TMTK and uploaded them to the workshop, that means that console players can use them, and then that means that they get the realistic sides of Planet Coaster. And also it means that we don't have to rely too much on the scaling mod as well. Obviously, like putting custom support beams that can be scaled is amazing, but it means that maybe I won't have to scale things down to 10% to get the result I want. I can keep them to 40%. But I don't know. I hope that we get TMTK for it, but we'll have to see. Going back to actually the time-lapse here, this is a little gift shop building that I was going to start building, because I realised that obviously on main streets of parks, but I know this isn't really a main street, you tend to have little gift shops and vending areas, and I kind of wanted to build this one so that you have those little like spinny stalls with the cards on them on the outside in the little pillared area. Sorry. And it would add another level of kind of detail to it, so I just copied over like the trim pieces and stuff. So I was able to use a bunch of the other predetermined like styles that I'd already started working on in this park to move it forward, so that all the buildings kind of look the same. I think I'm doing an okay job with cohesion when it comes to these themes, and I'm really enjoying actually working on this kind of like Tudor type theme. I have been starting to use references from real parks now, so I'm going to be honest, I have used a bit of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. BGW has some fantastic architecture in the British area, so the next two buildings after this one you will see actually are from BGW, and if you can, obviously one of them is the clock tower. It's called the Big Ben clock tower, but it isn't Big Ben obviously, but that building is now in the park because I thought I really liked the style of it. It's slightly tweaked, but I really like the idea of having a little clock tower in this Main Street Plaza area, and I think it's a really nice result. And I think with the scaling mod, obviously you can get really nice results to make things like clock faces, so I didn't have to worry about not having one in game. But yeah, this building that I'm starting here is, well, in the park is a pub, because nothing says British Park like having a pub about 20 metres from the entrance. So to do it, I thought, I don't know what a pub looks like. Well, I know what a pub looks like, but I don't know how to lay out a good looking pub in the context of this park. So I jumped onto Google Street View, went to BGW, and kind of walked around, and I thought, that's a nice building. So I'm not going to say which building it is, but if you are a regular visitor to BGW, see if you can guess what building this is, because it's very, very similar. I was using one specific angle to make the whole thing, so the other half of it isn't accurate, because I know on this building in the actual park, it goes to the left as well and extends past and has another side exit. This one, I just cut it off so it's more of like an L shape. Or I guess, yeah, it would be like an L shape. It's more of an L-shaped building, and I wanted to go for that sort of design because I thought it looked nicer. And I've given it the corner entrance, which I wanted to challenge myself to like really move away from that boxy architecture style and get some corners and things in. And to be honest, this is probably my favourite building in the entire park now, because it turned out so well in terms of the design. Like, I know obviously it's using another building for reference, but to be able to translate the design into something else as well, it takes a bit of effort, and I'm really happy with how I've done it, because again, I'm not a theme person. I don't theme. I just build coasters and then, you know, put palm trees around them and gravel, like I definitely didn't do for the wing coaster, but I enjoyed that one. And I'm really happy with how this has turned out, because it genuinely looks like a pub. So in the next episode, when I come to finish the entrance area and possibly even start our first ride as well at the end of that episode, I need to think of names for the pub. So again, if you've got any funny name suggestions for the pub, put it down in the comments, because I'm probably going to read them and laugh, because I imagine we're going to have some good suggestions. So put them down and I'll have a look and see what we can get. But I've been leaning towards a couple of funny names based close to where I'm originally from, because it's funny as a pub name. I'm not making it a Weatherspoons either. As funny as that would be, I'm not making it a Spoons. Though I could make it a Spoons. But yes, we're doing the tiles again because these are excellent pieces. Again, if you need tile pieces for your build, try the anchor plate flipped upside down, scaled to about 20%. If you haven't got the mod, 40% should be fine. You'll just have fairly big tiles. But layering them, stacking them, and then offsetting them creates a really gorgeous slate tile effect, which I have just been abusing for this project. And the fact that I've put, I think it's nearly 60,000 pieces down now. Maybe, actually no, I think it's like 40. I've put 40k pieces down in a very small succession, all in one area, and the game has not dropped a single frame. It doesn't take any longer to load the park. It hasn't dropped a single frame. I don't get any weird stuttering issues. It runs spectacularly well, and it does genuinely surprise me, because it feels like I'm playing Planet Coaster 1 that has finally been optimized. And I know that the same can be said for the Coaster Builder too, because the Coaster Builder is actually really well optimized to use multi-threading now, I think, or like at least multi-core CPU generating, because when you put loads of little tiny track pieces down, like 1 meter, there's no longer a massive pause when you need to delete or place a piece. You can have a 1 meter coaster and delete a piece and it's gone instantly, and you can just keep editing it, which means that if you ever do need to do 1 meter to get some smooth elements, you can genuinely just do it instantly. So everything in this game has just been sped up, optimized, and looks utterly gorgeous, and it is genuinely a really big step up. And I know that there's been a lot of debate about this game. People saying that it's not finished, and it isn't finished, let's be honest. It really should have been released a little bit later, but in its current state, I don't think it's a terrible game, and I think it is a more than worthy purchase. There are bugs, there are missing features, you need to expect that from a new game, but there are some annoying choices. I know we've had this game for, if you want to count the first game, we've had this game for nearly 10 years now. The original Planet Coaster came out in 2016 and it's 2025, so we've nearly had it 10 years. But there are some choices they've made that definitely go backwards from what they developed through PC1 and Planet Zoo's cycle. And I know that they'll come back through updates, but I hope that they also take their community listening seriously too, because I know for a fact Frontier is not a company that will, kind of be a bit of an arse to us. They have already apologised for that DLC, and obviously we have the new flume physics that are on the way, and because it is the start of January, I know that update will probably be coming in the next month or so, so I'm very excited to see what that is, and maybe we'll start a little side project with some water slides as well when we do come to get it. But I know I did mention in the first episode that I might do a water park for this park, so possibly, we'll have to see. We'll just have to see what this project develops like and see what the performance is like, because I'm pretty confident we'll be able to really fill this park with a bunch of stuff. I've noticed that we're coming up to the end of the time lapse. We've got another 5 or so minutes. As I said, been really enjoying actually building this park, and I'm hoping you guys are enjoying the videos on it. I know the time lapses can be a little bit jarring, how I've made them quite fast, and this episode's pretty fast as well, just because I thought I'd recorded less than I actually did, and I hate just doing a weird little, either maybe doing one building per time lapse, or leaving things unfinished. I know this is kind of unfinished, but this episode, at least, I scratch off the entrance being finished and started the actual main park, which you might see that we have a lake as well, because that ties into our first ride that comes in. Hint, hint, it is definitely a water ride. I didn't want to, like, you know, leave it weirdly, so hopefully next episode I might just make it smaller so that the time-lapse is a little bit less fast. But also, as some people were suggesting in the comments, they'd like to see a walkthrough overview of the progress we've made in the next episode. So that is exactly what is going to happen after this time-lapse, because this is a long video. And the next section that you will see after the time-lapse is a walkthrough of the entire project so far. Obviously, it won't be like that every episode, because I haven't done it for the past 3, so I need to kind of catch up. So the episodes after that, you'll just see a walkthrough and peep cam of the thing we've made, rather than the entire project as a whole. So that is what this project is going to be. This bit of the video is going to be like talking about what we've done in person. This little building as well, just before I move on to that in the time-lapse ends, this is the clock tower from Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. You'll probably recognise this one. It's just a nice little Tudor-style clock tower. I used the same like tiles and beams and things to make the really nice design. Again, really enjoying this architecture. There's lots of nice copy and pasting you can do, so you can actually repurpose buildings that have already been placed in different styles. So I'm really happy with how this is all coming along. So I think maybe this clock tower might move, and I might put it somewhere else as well. Maybe on the station of the ride we're going to build next episode. Well, not next episode, that we're going to start next episode. Who knows? But I really like the result of this. I think Busch Garden Williamsburg is an excellent reference for this project, because there are definitely some other areas. I think what was I doing there? Oh yeah, the undo was dying, so I had to restart the save file there. But to be honest, it was a really enjoyable thing using Busch Gardens as a reference, because a lot of the areas I might take inspiration from, and not necessarily the coasters that are in it, but maybe like the fact that we've got like some arrows and stuff we could use. I don't know. I don't want to make the scale of this park too huge either. I don't want to have like giga coasters and things. Maybe we have one hyper coaster right at the back of the park, but I want to try and keep it small and themed. Well, not small, but like sort of low to the ground and themed. Maybe 150 foot is the tallest coaster for like a long time, and then the park invests in a hyper coaster, like a really modern Mack hyper coaster, but not like Hyperia, more like something else, or maybe like an Intamin. But yes, that is the direction of the project. Coming up to the end of the time-lapse, I'm just building the clock here. So thank you very much for watching the time-lapse of this video. If you do want to just skip, I don't know why I'm saying to the end of the video, but obviously if going forward, if you want to skip to the overviews, they'll be at the end of the video. I'll probably time card them with chapters, and you can skip to whatever part of the video you want. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you again for all the feedback on this series. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Stay tuned for more videos in the future, and I will see you after the overview. So, welcome to the overview of Coniston Heights. I thought we'd start in the car park and just show off how everything is progressing on this front. So, obviously we have the long avenue-style main street here with all the little crossing signs and the trees. I really like the way it sort of overarches and makes it feel all very nice and avenue style. Lots of crossings. Hopefully everybody is not going to hit you, because the standard of driving in the UK obviously isn't the greatest, but I'm sure they'll be fine. We've got tons of crossing stuff here, little details, little pavements and things. And then as you make your way over to the main section here with the crossing, you've got the coach rank over there, lots of nice public transport links. That'll probably be where some people will spawn from as well, alongside down here, because I am going to put a spawn point down there. So we have a nice variety of guests entering the park in different ways. So crossing over, we enter to the main entrance plaza area with the nice more trees and stuff, and you're greeted with the big Coniston Heights sign. Now again, this is a very temporary logo. As I mentioned in the video, the typeface is just in the works, waiting for me to put it in game so I can actually like get that nice serif design. But I do like how it looks so far, but it does look a little bit like a garden centre, I can't lie, at the moment, so just bear with me while I get that working. But yes, this would be a nice little planter for people to sit and wait for their friends or whatever. We've got some lighting as well to light up the signs. I also really like using these willow trees, and I'm hoping to use them more in the park itself, because I think they're really nice looking bits of vegetation, as the foliage in this game is just next level. It's genuinely gorgeous, and I'm really happy with how Frontier have done it. As well, I really like using these little planters too, because although they've got the Viking things on them, I think they work really nicely for a generic rustic style theme. And I'm quite happy with how they're looking as well. So here we have the ticket booths as well, with the pre-booked and ticket purchase entrance with the little queue lines. Those are really nice to break up the sight lines with the little welcome signs, past the person. Then we have the staff entrance into those little ticket booths as well, because everything in this park has to be at least vaguely realistic and functional. First building on the left, we have the little parking area where the staff member will help people with, like, they don't want to use the machines or they're having problems. And then also we have the little machines to pay for your parking, so probably ANPR or something like that. Added little details like light switches and fire like buttons and things, just to keep everything nice and realistic. And that's the direction I want to keep going through the rest of the park. Got the toilet block. I haven't got an interior for this because not only do we not have any good like toilet pieces, but it would make sense to keep interiors at a minimum just while I'm figuring out how the game's going to perform with all the pieces. So far, we haven't dropped a single frame, which is fine, but I don't know how it's going to be on a really large scale, so for now we're going to just leave that. Then we have the guest services building. I might tweak this because it's not exactly realistic in some places to how they would actually queue. Like I might need to make a wider queue for accessible guests and things like that. But I don't know, I'll possibly tweak that, but I'm really happy with how this is looking with the tickets and things on there, and the little barrel planters, which are a really nice piece if you haven't already used them. Same with the middle section here, which is I think it's a yucca plant or something. We have quite a few of these in the UK, a lot of places have them, even though they're kind of warm environments, and I just think they look really nice as like a main little entrance next to the Coniston Heights logo there. And then obviously we have the entrance with the bag search areas to keep realism, and the accessible entrance and the standard ticket booth gates along with the exit gates, which will be open at the end of the day to let people out. So if we go through the gate, we enter into the sort of main plaza where we've got the clock tower, the gift shop building here, which obviously needs the details, and then the currently unnamed pub, which I think is an absolutely gorgeous building, and I'm really happy with how it's working, with a little side entrance as well. I might do an interior for this because I really want to make it functional, like have guests come in here and like go to the stand, order drinks and things, and then maybe put some picnic benches inside so people are sat eating food and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see how it's running after we get everything going. If we then move over here, this is where the park's going to start directing itself. To the left is going to be the continuation of the England area, where we're going to have a couple of rides, one big main attraction in that corner, and then some of the little rides, maybe even like a dark ride or some shops and stuff. England area is going to be very small. It's going to be very similar to Mediterranean and Port Ventura. It's got one big staple attraction, and it mainly just serves as the entrance to the park. To the left here, we're going to have another building with an archway, which takes you to the next area of the park, which I currently haven't decided what it's going to be, but it's going to start having some main attractions and things and pretty large scale stuff. So we'll just have to see what we get with that. But for now, that is the whole of Coniston Heights. Really enjoying the project so far. Hope you guys are enjoying it, and I will keep up with these sort of episode-based updates from in person so we can see what the project's looking like as a whole in a final finished form. So thank you very much for watching this episode of Coniston Heights. Stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you all next time.